Hi, my name is Beth Ellen DiLulio. I have a master's in human nutrition from Columbia University, College of Physicians and Surgeons, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and am licensed as well in the state of Florida. And I taught nutrition for years at the college level and at the continuing education level, and I still love to teach. So we're going to go on a short journey today through some nutrition supplement basics. And I think these are the things that are kind of missing a lot of times. There's a lot of information out there, especially on the internet, and you don't really know, is it valid information or is it too more complex than you need to know? So these are the basics from somebody that taught nutrition for a very long time. So sit back and enjoy, and we will save some questions for later on. Thank you so much. Also, I want to mention nutrition is your best health insurance. And that is my little motto, if you will, or my slogan, because I think if you stay healthy and try to prevent chronic disease, you can hopefully not have to use your disease care insurance. That's always the goal. Okay, so nutrition supplementation is really meant to fill in the gaps. So nutrition supplements should fill in the gaps, especially gaps created by a diet that's basically highly processed foods and nothing else. And that's kind of a junk food diet, a lot of convenience foods that don't have the healthiest ingredients. And some people don't realize that you just don't get the nourishment you need from junk foods and packaged foods for the most part. So a diet that's basically highly processed is usually devoid of nutrients and fiber and a number of other things. Metabolic factors, genetic factors, and gastrointestinal issues can also increase your nutrition requirements, and that leaves a gap. Even if you're eating pretty well, there are reasons that you might need more of a certain nutrient, and those should be identified before you just start to supplement indiscriminately. Drug-induced nutrient depletions. Medications can deplete your body of nutrients, and that surprises a lot of people. But there's a good example is statin drugs deplete your body of CoQ10. They interrupt the production of cholesterol by inhibiting a certain enzyme, but that same enzyme is used to make CoQ10. So then you have a depletion of CoQ10 when you're on a statin, and that's what we call a drug-induced nutrient depletion. A lot of medications also deplete B vitamins. There's a long list. That could be a whole lecture in itself, but that could be a reason somebody needs to supplement their diet. Also, inadequate intake of certain foods and nutrients, and those have to be identified with a really good diet history and a really good assessment of someone's eating habits and, how fresh is the food. There's a number of things that would go into a really good nutrition assessment, and that's when you can pinpoint when someone is missing certain groups of foods or enough of a certain food. So, a lot of times is inadequate intake of whole unprocessed foods, right? So, really things the way they grow up out of the ground. So, you have an orange, that's an orange. You turn it into orange juice, then it's processed. So, the orange is the whole food, the orange juice is the processed version. And then reducing that down to a powder would be even further processed. So, a lot of times people don't have enough whole unprocessed foods in their diet. They don't have enough greens, and that's really a group in itself. A lot of people don't eat enough fresh fruits, other vegetables, fiber. So you have your greens and then your other vegetables. That's how important greens are. Protein, and protein can come in many forms. That could be a whole nother lecture, but a lot of times people's protein needs are increased, or people just don't realize how important protein is and they don't eat nearly what they need for the day. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, or your omega-3s, the best come from cold water fish, low mercury fish, so the smaller fish is low mercury, and microalgae. And that's the preformed EPA, DHA, omega-3 fatty acids that are really important to consume, because even when we consume the precursor like flax seeds or chia seeds, they have an omega-3 choline alpha-linolenic acid, that still has to be converted into EPA and DHA. And a lot of people don't do that conversion well. So I recommend that you get the whole preformed EPA, DHA, or supplement if you need it. Vitamin C, a lot of people don't get enough. Vitamin C is a nutrient that most mammals produce themselves. And it's really some confusion about how much humans really need to consume. So when an animal, say, gets sick or is stressed, they make more vitamin C. So our needs as mammals will also go up under, times of stress or surgery or other conditions. Even extreme temperature changes increases our need for vitamin C. So you probably have a gap, a lot of people do, in their vitamin C intake compared to their needs. Sun exposure, we can make some vitamin D when we're exposed to sun, as long as you have real sun exposure, it's not blocked, and not too much, of course. But you can convert something in the skin that actually comes from cholesterol into vitamin D. Or are you getting some from food or enough from food? Most people don't, because vitamin D is not found in a lot of foods, actually. So it's either you get enough sun or you probably need supplementation. And you always want to check your blood levels of vitamin D for that. Minerals, including magnesium, calcium, zinc, selenium, iodine. So these major minerals and these trace minerals are very, very important, and they get processed out a lot. So when you process food, you lose a lot of minerals, especially if you say cook in water and the minerals leach out into the water and you throw them away. So there are a lot of reasons that minerals can become depleted. A lot of people need to actually supplement with those, but we want to pinpoint what you need and how much you need. And probiotic or fermented foods, a lot of people don't consume enough of those. And it could be a live culture yogurt that does the trick for you, or some people need probiotic supplements for therapeutic purposes. So food first. You always want to get your nutrients from food first. And again, that's where you want to consume a whole nutrient dense diet, right? All of your foods, make the most of your meals and make sure that your foods are nutrient dense, and then decide what you might need to supplement later on. So I love the Linus Pauling Institute, the Micronutrient Information Center at the Linus Pauling Institute, and that's at Oregon State University. And they have so much up-to-date information. It's a great resource. It's a reliable resource. So I always just tell people do a general search. You can do it in Google or in your search engine and put the name of the nutrient and then just type LPI for Linus Pauling Institute. So vitamin C, LPI, magnesium, LPI, omega-3, LPI. So it's actually pretty easy to do. And then you can get some real basic, but also some detailed information about each of these nutrients. So they have a beautiful handout called Micronutrients for Health, and this will give you an idea of what each individual nutrient is best known for and roughly how much you'd need just for the RDAs, which the RDAs are meant to keep pretty much healthy people healthy. So if you have needs beyond the RDA, then those need to be identified. So this is a list of common dietary sources. And again, your daily intake recommendations if you're healthy already. So these are some of your vitamins, more vitamins here. You're going to have some minerals here in the second or third part of this handout, and minerals till the end. So I really recommend people get a hold of this, keep it somewhere where you can just kind of look over it and remind you to eat nutrient dense foods, and then maybe you might not have to supplement as much. So supplement safety really comes first, and you want to supplement safely. So don't overdose. A lot of times people are taking several different sources of one nutrient and they don't realize it. So you want to be sure you consider all sources of nutrients, including your diet intake. Beverages now are being, supplemented or enhanced, and the supplements themselves. So we need a complete total of each nutrient that you're getting from different sources. You want to be careful, especially with minerals, though, and they are harder to excrete than water-soluble micronutrients like your vitamins. So minerals, if you don't have good kidney function, you might have trouble excreting the minerals that might build up in the blood. So if you have a kidney issue, then you have to be followed by a physician, and you need a very special dietary prescription, actually. So and anybody too, just be careful not to overdose on minerals. And then there's also fat soluble vitamins can be a little harder to get rid of, but we can address that down the road. So avoid any ingredients that might trigger sensitivity if you have food sensitivity, or they just might not be tolerated, again, because of kidney disease, liver disease, hemochromatosis, which is a type of iron overload. And if you have a sensitivity, you always have to look at the ingredient list on supplements, because sometimes there are additives that people might not tolerate. You want to be aware of drug-nutrient interactions. Again, we talked about that a little bit. So you want to ensure quality as well. A lot of people, I like to Or I hear people say, oh, supplements are not regulated by the FDA, and yet they really are. So by law, any supplement manufacturer is supposed to be following current good manufacturing practices, so CGMP. And that is by law, and that was set up way back when in like 2008. So, they're supposed to do that by law. So if it's a good company with a good reputation and standards, then you can feel confident that they're going to be following the FDA guidelines. You can also call them and ask them. USP kind of guarantees those basic guidelines. US Pharmacopoeia, it's a seal that some government manufacturers get on their products to show that they're being monitored in a sense. And then NSF Sports actually exceeds basic requirements because they have to make sure there are no contaminants. So you can even go above and beyond what the FDA requires for regulation. Here's a place you can familiarize yourself with the basics of dietary supplements. So basic supplementation, micronutrients, and those are needed in relatively small amounts. You have your vitamins and your minerals, basically. Phytonutrients, you almost could say they're micronutrients. We don't need them in very large amounts, but we don't know exactly how much we need either. So choose a very good, if you're going to supplement and you need a supplement, choose a balanced multivitamin mineral supplement. I like to cover as many micronutrient needs as possible with one good product. And sometimes you need 2 or 3 or even 4 capsules a day, but it's easier sometimes with one product, especially if you're meeting all of your needs. It just kind of simplifies things. And then if you need, you can provide additional supplementation. So, the MVI minerals and minerals often don't have very large doses of bulky minerals. So, multivitamin with some minerals in it usually doesn't have a good large dose or enough calcium and magnesium unless your daily dose for that supplement is 2 or 3 or 4 tablets, and sometimes or capsules, sometimes even more, depending on what you're trying to squeeze in to that daily dose. So that's really important to be aware of how many capsules or how much powder constitutes one serving. So your macronutrients, supplementation, protein, carbohydrate, or fat. Most people don't need a carbohydrate supplement, but there are some kids with failure to thrive or certain disorders that might. Most people don't need to supplement with fat except for the omega-3s. That tends to be what is missing. But a lot of people might need to supplement with protein, and that depends. You might be consuming enough, and that's fine. But if you need more and you're not consuming what you need, then you might need supplementation. And again, your kidneys have to be working well. Your liver has to be working well. They both really have to process any extra protein you take in. So you want to be aware of what you need and don't overdo it. Make sure you can handle it. Sometimes if you have blood glucose regulation or kidney and liver function or digestive incompetence, then you might not be able to, take certain supplements. And that's why you need a professional assessment to decide what you need. Basic supplementation, water. Water is a macronutrient. It's a vital macronutrient. And, sometimes people, how much should I drink? Well, there's a way to do it. We have some calculations that you can do. Usually it can take your weight in pounds divided by 2 and drink that many ounces of water a day. And that's kind of a rough guesstimate. But if you sweat any water out or you lose it in sweat, you lose it in GI issues, anytime you lose even vomiting or diarrhea and you lose fluid, you have to replace what you lost, especially with exercise, especially in the heat, you can be losing a lot. So we calculate what water needs you have or fluid needs you have. You get some water in foods like fruits and vegetables and soups and liquids and like things like that. Purified water is recommended, but it does remove all the minerals. It removes contaminants, which is great, removes radioactive elements, which is awesome, even removes pharmaceuticals using reverse osmosis or distillation, but it also takes out the good minerals. So you want to make sure you have enough minerals in your diet, or if you supplement, that you have enough of the ones that are being removed from the water. So you want to make sure, again, that that's an assessment, basically. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can, I should say quicker calc. Total water fluid needs will be based on weight and condition. So basic is 30 to 35 mLs per kilogram if you want to do the math. That comes out to 45 to 53 ounces per 100 pounds of body weight. Quick calculation for the minimum, take your pounds divided by 2.2. That tells you how many ounces for the day. Another quicker calculation, just take your weight in pounds divided by 2, and those are ounces for the day. So I should say quicker. And again, replace any losses from sweat, GI losses, etc. You want to restrict fluid if, a certain condition, medical condition dictates that. So if you have kidney failure or edema, there might be a restriction in your fluid intake. So these are things I feel a lot of people end up needing supplementation for. So greens and greens powders, you can get organic greens powders. It doesn't take much. You can add it to different foods. You can add it to a smoothie. Fruit concentrates as well. If you don't want to do powders, you can do capsules. Omega-3s, purified fish oil, make sure that's purified because the, fish oil comes from the liver and the skin a lot of times, and that's where toxins can build up. Algal sources, will be lower in contaminants usually. But again, purified fish oil for sure. So those provide a preformed EPA and DHA, so your body doesn't have to work so hard to convert the alpha-linolenic that you get from flax or chia or walnuts and some of the other sources that are plant-based sources. So the plant-based kind of give you the precursor to the EPA, DHA usually, and then the animal or seafood-based is already preformed EPA, DHA. So protein powders if needed. Whey protein isolate, I'm a fan of that for a lot of reasons. If somebody doesn't do dairy, then you wouldn't do whey. But whey has amino acids that help support detoxification. It's good for your immune system. The isolate is usually best tolerated for someone with GI issues or lactose intolerance. You can also do egg white protein powder, plant-based protein powders as well, but make sure they're low in heavy metals because they can actually be high in heavy metals. Collagen protein powder, if you do it, you want to make sure it has added tryptophan because if it does not, that can actually kind of mess with your serotonin balance, especially if you hadn't had much protein, other protein at a meal. It can really drop your serotonin. So a lot of people find that they don't tolerate that, and you want to get collagen peptides with tryptophan added or take it with it at the same time. Basics again, supplement as needed. Vitamin C should be with bioflavonoids and quercetin. Vitamin D, especially somebody who's dark-skinned or has limited sunlight exposure, you're going to need some vitamin D supplementation. Fermented foods or live culture probiotics, digestive enzymes and digestive support. Some people might even need hydrochloric acid supplementation, but you want to make sure you really need that. If you had any kind of an ulcer or anything, then you took hydrochloric acid, it could be very irritating to the stomach. But digestive enzymes, usually a lot of people do well with that, and there are a lot of reasons to need digestive enzymes. That's a whole nother lecture, but if you need them, get a well-balanced product with what you need in it. There's so many out there. Again, additional supplementation should be based on individual need. Okay. All right. Let's see. So a comprehensive, and this is how we get targeted nutrition support, should be based on a comprehensive assessment. So how well do you absorb and utilize nutrients? Do you have any genetic factors or SNPs, especially that we call them, just small little changes in your genes that change how you actually, what micronutrients you need and how you can metabolize certain nutrients. So it's kind of a two-way street. When you have genetic disorders, there's not terrible thing to worry about. A lot of people have, these little SNPs, but you want to know what they are so that you can supplement with the nutrients that you need, like activated folate, if you have a certain SNP in your MTHFR gene. You also want to assess overall intake and habits, specific intakes of nutrients in nutrient-dense food. How are you doing now? Are you low in nutrient-dense foods? Are you low in certain nutrients? So that's an assessment that should be done before you decide what you need to supplement with. Blood chemistry biomarkers. We do functional blood chemistry. You assess these results within a functional optimal range. What do healthy people keep their vitamin C levels at, and their zinc levels, and their magnesium levels? And that's just serum. You can also measure a lot of nutrients down at the red blood cell level or the white blood cell level. So there are different ways to find out, what you might be missing in real time, what you have in the pantry, I call it too, when you're going down into the cellular level to see what nutrients are in there. And additional functional testing can be done as well, like organic acids testing. So that's actually showing, even if you consume a certain nutrient, are you actually using it in your metabolism? So thank you. This is kind of short and sweet, but I just want you all to remember supplement safely, remember supplement safety, and remember nutrition is your best health insurance. So stay well, stay happy, stay healthy. And just want to end on a note. What is a good, healthy diet? I find the sustainable Mediterranean diet is very healthy. It includes water and exercise and relaxation, but also, nutrient-dense plant-based foods are the basis of the pyramid, and those should be grown sustainably. And then, we have your fruits and your vegetables and your whole grains, and then nuts and onions and garlic. You don't need in as much amount, although they're very still important. You don't need as much of them. Dairy, especially if you notice from sheep and goat, if you notice that they recommend more sheep and goat dairy products than cow, because cow is not as sustainable to raise and to maintain. Seafood, chicken, eggs, and things like that. And then red meat is slipping up towards the top where you really have less, even just a couple of times, a week, if that, a couple of times a month might be even better. So less red meat. And then sweets and sugary things at the top and, factory farm foods. So there we have it. So I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Again, my name is Beth Ellen DeLulio, and thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope you learned something fun. Take care. Bye-bye.